My name is Carol Hunt, and I'm the Executive Director of Jamaica Service Program for Older Adults. And I've been asked to just give a short, interesting story about this building and that you're in today, and how Jamaica Service Program for Older Adults began. Some of you in the audience knows the story very well, but it's always nice to talk about what came before, because it helps us appreciate the present and gives us a guide for the future. Back in the late 60s, older people were wanted to sell their homes here in Southeast Queens because they were alone. Their children had grown up and was living in the city or somewhere else. And the cost of maintaining a large home was a lot. So they didn't want to leave Southeast Queens, but they wanted to stay here, sell their homes, and go into senior housing. Now, those two words, senior housing, is very familiar to us now. But back then, there was not one building in Southeast Queens that one could call just for senior citizens. And so a local church, First Presbyterian Church on 164th Street, off of Jamaica Avenue, worked with the community to see if in fact that they could find a way to build housing. Interesting enough, the way they found out, not just because older people were looking to sell their homes, but they did a huge survey asking what did older people want. Because like we know now, older people are living longer. It was just starting then. And so here you had all of these people retired, 65 or 60 and over, and the country was just beginning to say, what do we do? So the survey said, we want housing. And the church went to the city with the community, because the community got together around this idea of how we can promote or get senior housing, and asked the city what could it do. The city said, and that's when Mayor Lindsay was the mayor. The city said, we don't have any money, but we do have land. If you can find a big corporation with a lot of money who is willing to build the building, we will give you the land. And so the church, with the help of the community, did some research and found a corporation named Celanese Corporation. It was a company that dealt in fabric. And that company said, we are interested. We will come build the building with our money on city land and turn the keys over to the city. And it got its name just from that idea, turnkey operation. So Celanese Corporation built the building, turned the keys over to the city, and this building, Life Towers, was built, and it's the first senior housing in Southeast Queens. It opened in 1972. That was just the beginning. Life Towers, the LIHFE that you read when you're coming up the street, stands for low income housing for the elderly. But much better to say life, because that's what it was really doing, promoting life for people after 60 years old. And as I said, it was just the beginning. People signed up to move into this building. And they found that as they were signing up, not only did the older people need support to sell their furnishings and scale down to a studio apartment or a one-bedroom apartment, they found they needed other services as well. And so the church began to look into how to help not only the people who were moving into the building, but all of the people in Southeast Queens who needed support for a variety of needs. And in doing that and working with an organization in New York Community Service Society, it began what we know now as Jamaica Service Program for Older Adults. When additional monies came from the federal government, the government here in New York City gave the contract to Jamaica Service Program to be the sponsor of this senior center here that you are a part of, those who live in the building, those who come from the community, to be sponsorship of the senior center, and where so many good things go on. You may also wonder how the name of the building happened to change to Conlin. John P. Conlin Life Towers, and for the center, Conlin Community Center. And that was named for a priest in the community who was very active, along with First Church and so many other leaders, to build the building. And his name was John Conlin, and he was the priest at St. Bonaventure Church here in South Jamaica, not so far from here. As it turned out, he did not live to an old age rather, inasmuch as there was a robbery at the rectory and he was killed. So when that happened, the city and the program requested that this building would be named in his honor, and also the center be named in his honor. And if you walk along this memorial wall right here, you will see a picture of him, as well as one of his very, very favorite sayings about everyone loving one another. And I do think that does go on here at Conlin, and certainly is what is supportive of all the services that JSPOA is involved in, not only senior centers, but home-delivered meals, which are packaged here in this building every day, transportation, services to seniors who are victimized by crime, respite services, which happens here again at Conlin every Saturday. So just a host of services came because of this building and the desire of seniors who wanted to stay here and a community who wanted to support them in staying here.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And we want to welcome you to Fade to Black, a television show. I have a couple of questions to ask you. First of all, how successful do you think the program has been since the initiation, and since it was the first program, it basically led the way for the other ones? How successful do you think it was?
Well, I believe and know, since I was around then and up to this present time, that the program has been enormously successful. So many other services have been developed in our community because of the start of building senior housing, and then listening to older people and what they wanted in their lives to support them to be active and to maintain a high quality of living. So it's been enormously successful, and the community at large continues to support Conlin Center, the other centers that the agency sponsors, plus all of the programs. And it is so necessary and will be needed. This type of program will be needed in the future, just like those in 72 and earlier had the vision to say what we're doing now is so important for the future, whether they were going to be here or not. That same vision continues for the next 30 or 40 years.
Okay, now also, due to the budget cuts and lack of monies and funds these days that we've been having, has that in any way hampered some of the programs and things that you've been presenting?
Yes, that is true. These are different times. And in 72 and before, when agencies in the community would come together and share resources, money and other things, for instance, there was a clinic in this building for more than 25 years on the second floor, donated by Mary Immaculate Hospital, free of charge to the people who lived here to maintain their health. Those kinds of collaboration cannot happen because every agency, every program, less money, less staff to support senior needs. So it is much harder now, far more challenging to keep in place the programs that we benefit and the senior centers in the community in what they need to do.
And what plans do you have for the future in terms of maybe making improvements on what you already have?
That's a good question because, you're always busy trying to maintain what you're doing. But there's always new ideas that pop into our minds. And one of them, which we think is really great, is the sponsorship of attracting volunteers to programs like Conlin and to other programs. It's gathering information in the community, sending out another survey, the way it was done so many years ago, and finding out what are the volunteer needs of all of our programs, not just senior programs, but all of the programs. Because the person who retired in 1968-69 is not the same person who's retiring in 2005. So it's all geared to how to go after the person who is about to retire and who has retired now. Their interests are different. They come wanting to do different things, but there's so much going on. It's hard to make that match. So the community is going to come together and talk about ways to reach these individuals so that they can use their skills and their life experiences in senior centers, in programs for children, in libraries, in hospitals, in everywhere in the community that you can think of. So that's an exciting project. Going after and marketing to individuals who are 55 and over. And one other thing I'd like to say is that 2005 is the White House Conference on Aging. Every 5 years, the government stops and says, what's going on with older people? What are their needs? And how can we plan for the next 10 years? Some of you may have been present at York College a little over a week ago when JSPOA sponsored a community-wide White House Conference on Aging. Those issues that were discussed that day at York will be sent on to Washington. So I think that that is another exciting way to stay involved and to let those who pass the laws and come up with the money, our tax dollars, to share, knows what's going on now, the way it learned it many, many years ago.
I'd like to thank you for that, and we thank you for being on our program today. And you've been very informative. And also the senior citizen, we'd like to thank you for allowing us to come into your center today and be a part of your fashion show that you're having. And like I said before, you're our most valuable resource. You have all the knowledge and you have all the skills, basically, that people really need today. So we'd like to thank you and have a good program. Thank you.
Hey everybody, this is Renee McRae and welcome to Fade to Black. Today we are having a legend in our own time right here in our midst. I'm up here in Harlem. I'm not going to tell you where because y'all will all be trying to get up in here, trying to get the salmon croquettes on the Sundays with the open house, okay? One of the last poets, Abiodun Oye Wole.
It's good to see you, Renee, and be a part of your TV viewing audience. This is a Sunday, this is a traditional thing. We get together and try to just talk about what's going on in the world and share our ideas and share some poetry, share some food, some beverage, and laughs, and just make Sunday a sunny day, in whatever way we can.
So bless us with something right quick.
Well, we always get started. This is how we usually get started. So we're just gonna open it up because the poetry always comes after we go through, our little ritual. I want to be what I can be, to be proud, healthy, and free. I want to say what I know to help my brothers and sisters grow. I want to feel good about me and blame no one for my misery. Because I'll be strong to turn it around. I want to go up, I'm not going down. I want to do what I can do to make all my dreams come true. Remember my past, the good and bad, how I made it art even when it was sad. I want to share whatever my gift, and when you're feeling low, I'll give you a lift. I want to live without fear and know that I'm blessed for being here, and know that I'm blessed for being here, and know that I'm blessed for being here, and know that I'm blessed for being, and know that I'm blessed. Yep. So we start out like that and just get into the flavor of the day, and we have some poets among us. We always have poets among us. Some perform and some live poetry, and then some do both. But I don't think that I've ever had any unpoetic person cross the threshold of my house. I think that the walls would probably collapse on you. We just have different ways of expressing our poetic flavor or values and so forth, our particular poetic stance. It comes in different forms. It's not always in the spoken word. Sometimes it'll be, in just an attitude or a look, or the way you argue with people, to create some poetry, because life grows out of conflict, so there's always something. So anyway, we got it open.
Conflict is good sometimes.
Oh yeah, conflict is necessary. Matter of fact,
conflict is essential.
It's essential. I think it was Frederick Douglass who said, "He who professes to want progress without struggle, is like the farmer who wants crops without plowing up the soil. Is like the farmer who wants the rain without the loud roar of lightning and thunder. So you're gonna get that.
Like milk with no cow.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You're just not gonna have.
From conflict.
We come from conflict.
Chemical reaction.
That's right, absolutely. And the battle to make that whole thing take place is phenomenal. I mean, when you hear of all the sperm cells dealing with trying to get to the egg, there's millions. So there's a whole war going on, but just to get the thing started. Survival of the fittest. Yeah.
That's right.
Killer sperms.
Exactly, they sure
What
do.
make a sperm? What?
And right, you're right.
Lucky sperm.
And you got
Super sperm.
yeah.
Sperms.
And all those sperms are manifested into people. And that's a part of life that we have to come to grips with. You know, it's so funny. If we were really wise, all we would do a lot of times, if we want to find out what's happening or what's happening now, what's going to happen, is look back, because it's all there. But we can't seem to piece the history together with the present and the future. When it's all been done before, and you can, like, if you can really scope it, if you can really see it, and even the old stories, those old little mother wit proverbial stories, those stories are still true. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I mean, that's still true. Those things never stop being true. But we somehow look for some other new ground. There's no such thing as new ground. And we're looking for something different. And when actually it's just the same. We have to cope with what has always been. You know, it's like that tree has not changed. It's still a tree. But can you see it in another way where you can see it as something more constructive to your life as opposed to being something in the way of your driveway or whatever?
Right.
You know? I mean, it's like, you know, but it's just interesting because we don't look back too much, and we're so strung out on what can possibly happen in the future. What happened in the past? You know, that's going to happen tomorrow. And you had good moments, so it's not that everything's going to be bleak and sad and hopeless. You want to, you know, how's the majority of your life been? Has it been one big teardrop? Have you had momentary moments where things weren't right, and then a lot of time when you were laughing and having a good time?
Can it possibly be that we can learn from the past, but we don't necessarily have to use the past to determine the future?
I think we learn from the past, and I think that the past also does determine the future. But I think that you can, if you have the strength of being responsible in your personality strong enough, I think you can change things. I mean, I think that you can. I think that your discipline and your awareness of the past can change the course of things. I don't think
Right.
that you
That's
have
the
to,
learning.
Right, that's the learning process. I mean, it's like we know that some parents have had some issues with drugs, and now if the child sees that and can really see the problem and how it cripples his folks, he should be able to learn. He does not have to become. But then, of course, if he becomes a victim, they say, well, it's a part of his genetics. His
Right.
mother was a drug addict. His father was a drug addict, so it was only natural. But I think that with knowledge and some real strength, inner discipline, you can change things. You can be the captain of your soul, the master of your fate. I do believe that.
Right.
Yeah. But
I
it takes
agree
some.
with
It takes a lot of
I agree with
responsibility.
that, but I think that that's part of the task of what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it. Like to become conscious, to be self-determining.
Right. Well, on that note, just since I know you wanted to get this little discussions about the poets and how we got
Yes.
started. Well, based on what we're talking about, self-determination is how we got started. Because there's nothing in any college syllabus that says learn how to be a last poet. You know, we decided that we were going to come together, and because we like R&B and we like jazz groups, and we see these groups working together to create sounds, we see these groups working together to create harmonies and dance steps. So we said we want to take that same motif, so to speak, and develop a group of poets. And that would be unique because poets are so individual. Poets are really like, you know, the cat that goes off into the mountainside by himself and just looks back at the world. You know, he doesn't hang out with a bunch of people. You know, he does his own thing. So here's a situation where we're going to try to take our poetry, our individual poetry, and blend ourselves together as a group. So for Malcolm X's birthday, May 19th, 1968, we went on stage in Mount Morris Park, which is now Marcus Garvey Park, and we went on as a group. There were some drummers on stage already, and they were playing, and they were going to stop because it was our turn to be on stage. But I told the brothers to continue to play because it just seemed like the right thing to have, you know, behind the poetry. So I had a little poem, and David had a poem, and Kane had a poem, and we went on chanting, "Are you ready, niggas? You got to be ready. Are you ready, niggas?" And the whole place started chanting, "Are you ready, niggas?" So we had that going. So we had this audience participation thing happen. Then we did our thing. And I had a poem titled, "What is your thing, brother? Is it a black thing?" And blah, blah, blah. And then David had a poem, "Are you ready, black people? You ready to live? You ready to die?" Whatever. And then Kane had a poem, "Niggas are untogether people," which was like my first nigga poem I ever heard. I mean, it was classic. He just dressed niggas up and down. I mean, made it clear that if you call yourself a nigga, you are untogether. Your stuff is totally not together. So there was some definitions. People loved us. And then our first gig, our first real paying gig, without having a name, was at New York University the very next week. So we started working. The thing that really separated us from other groups was we had a place. And that's very important. We had a place, and we called our place the East Wind. And that was important. We could sponsor ourselves. We could sponsor other groups. We could sponsor all kinds of parties. We even rented space out to the National Black Theater. Now she's got an $8 million building. I mean, she used to rent space from us $75 a month. I mean, so we had a place. And then we called ourselves the Last Poets, which was really kind of definitive and kind of brazen, considering that there were a lot of other poets around. And here we came on like, bam, we're the last poets, and that's like stepping on a lot of people.
Saying I'm the only, we the only poets.
Yeah, almost like say ain't nobody got nothing to say after we say boom, it's it. Ain't nothing else to say. And so some people that had been on the scene, they didn't particularly care for that because it's like who are these guys? But see, poetry was still basically on the music stand. You put your glasses on, you put your poetry on the music stand, you get some tea, you have it right nearby you, and you do your poem, like civilized, and we just took that off we said, forget
It's
that.
always great to be here. My name is Brother Earl, I'm a poet.
The ghetto, where dreams get deferred, but prison sentences never are. Everybody's a superstar, known near and far, pushing an exotic car. Parked in the projects at his mom's house, and his spouse has 2 kids that ain't his, one on the way that might be. And his child by a chick he don't have much to say to, and his other child by yet another chick he don't have much to say to, while they are raised by many men, always in a different way too. The most confusing 24 hours in the hood, Father's Day. Sad but true, the ghetto where drug dealers on the auction block, corner block, selling rock, but really waiting to be sold. Street icons, until the judge erases that eye. So as a con, you serve time. New world order, indentured servitude of the mind. The irony of being a con. You were convinced this was a way out. A conspirator to erase genocide. Condescending the look you gave brothers who worked real jobs. Now contrite, because your sentences don't run concurrent. And me, my conceptualism of the ghetto is hell. We are born in bondage and breastfed sin, but it's never too late to be what you could have been. And though we run in a race we were never meant to win, the means to our end is examining how we begin. I often think back when I was a child and my fatherless friends acted wild, cutting class and living fast without a dad to get in that ass. Destined to be treated like ghetto trash, recycled at the industrial correctional facility. Post-Civil War slave labor based on availability. While our kids catch bids for street credibility, you can play OG when your father's absentee. So getting shot, sent up, or strung out is stark reality, because we are born in bondage and breastfed sin, but it's never too late to be what you could have been. And though we run in the race we were never meant to win, the means to our end is examining how we begin. As a teen, I wanted to hang out in the pool hall with the rest of my crew. I had nothing to do and wanted to do it there, but my pop said no, and I thought it wasn't fair. Everybody hung out at lumps, so why couldn't I? And he replied, I lived this hell so you won't die. And though you can't understand it now, no good will come to your friends in that crowd. And I can't say it loud enough for you to hear, but the pushers are just looking to whisper in your ear of what a great life they live. But what they really need is sacrifices for the cops to give in case the block gets hot. You're placed on the corner to get knocked. Paid off cops get a collar, and it makes me want to holler, because I've already lost your brother to the game. And to lose you would drive me insane. Naturally, I didn't understand where my father was coming from, but it's funny. The older you get, the smarter your parents become. Because my friends from the pool hall I wanted to hang out with so bad, most of their lives ended tragic or sad. Some eventually escaped the prisons of their mind with help from a wife or religion, but still I find myself wondering why our learning curve becomes a circle, and like animals we end up chasing our tails, focusing on endeavors doomed to fail. Drugs in a pool of blood, we've set our sail. It seems to me, men that plant seeds need to stick around and watch them grow. We are descendants from kings, don't you know? In order for our past to be our future, it's never more present. We begin spending time with our children again, loving and nurturing them to no end. And though we were born in bondage and breastfed sin, while running in a race we were never meant to win, still I say, it is never too late to be what we've already been.
That's excellent.
Thank you, thank you.
That's
What's your name again?
Brother Earl.
Brother Earl.
Yes.
All right, so like,
Duke of Earl. Yes.
so where were you when that came through?
You know, in terms of doing poetry, I've only been on the poetry scene maybe 4 years or so, but I used to be into hip hop, like in the late 70s and stuff. So I mean, the word has always been there, but it took the passing of my father to kind of bring me back to the word. And eventually what happened is, you know, especially as a black man, I think in society, we walk with so much stuff. And, you know, we're almost taught from the beginning to have a poker face. People can't know that you actually feel. And you walk with all these stories in your head. So when I finally got back, when I finally started writing, all these things that was walking, that story, that poem, The Ghetto, that's my life. I lived that. Okay, I was born I lived on 159th Street. Okay, some of the biggest hustlers in the world lived there. I seen my friends go the directions that they went. You know, Nicky Barnes went with one of my boy's sisters. You know, so it's right. It was all right there. And when you start asking yourself, why didn't I go down that route? All of us were all down together.
Right.
Okay, we were all best friends. They
Right.
stayed at my house. This, that, and the third. And the only thing that I could logically come up with is the presence of my father and the absence of theirs. That was a true story.
Wow.
My father came to the pool hall and got me. Okay, I'm hanging out with my boys. I wasn't trying to do anything wrong. I was just playing pool, you know. But my pop said to me, you don't understand this. He said, but that puts you in a line to be a runner or do this. And I'm looking at him like he's crazy. But sure enough, all my friends from there got in the game.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
on one level or another, got in the game. So I mean, a lot of the stories, you know, although poetry, you know, you write what's going on, happening in your life now, what you like to see going forward. But we walk with so many stories, and that was, you know, I had to go to get that story.
I hear you.
That was a lifetime in
Thank
making.
you. Thank you for blessing us with that, because you certainly were blessed to have your father care enough about you to even come and get you, because hindsight is always 20/20.
No question, no question. I mean, I was, my age puts me in Harlem at the height of crack's birth and ascension. I was right there. I mean, it's part of my everyday life. Some of my best friends was on all sides of that line, from being the biggest dealers in the world to being strung out and everything else in the middle. And for what it's worth, my brother, God bless the dead, was very much in the game. I mean, he's already been in the game and fell off by the time I was coming up. So I mean, and because of who he was, that automatically gives you a little in on the street anyway. Okay,
Right.
I'm Pablo's little brother, so I mean, that gets you something off the door. Okay, so I mean, I realized that, hey, I mean, it was just that constant, that presence, being there, and going all out. And I can only hope that I provide that example and that presence for my son.
Well, all right. Well, you probably will, because they say if you think about it, you bring it back.
Hey, my name is Al B. Back, and I'm here because there's free food, and nah, I'm joking. I'm here because I'm a young writer, and for years Abiodun has been my mentor, my teacher, and has been shaping me into being a well-versed, educated writer, and also now the things that he's been giving me, I've also been teaching. So I also teach creative writing in schools in the Bronx and in Harlem. So So all right. In light of Brother Earl's poem, that's on one side of your father being there, I originally named myself I'll Be Back. So the reason being because it's the lonely path of a man destined to leave but be back. Lonely in the fact that no one else wants to see that as value. The return deserves the same due of the lasting. And the funny thing about longevity is that I'm not laughing. Only familiar jokes are funny. My sister used crazy glue and dad shoes. I used honey. Mom used silence to break the tension, but dad used money, and even that left without warning. Now your ears has to be scorching, Dad. From us to talking, we consciously, on purpose, gain speech impediments, so our conversations about you, Dad, would last longer. So every time your back be, I'll thank you. And me and her and my kids in the future will send you gold, frankincense, and myrrh for Christmas with just our return address. So we can say, thank you, Dad, for the gift. It's beautiful to see you, me, wanting my kids to smell success. So what do you call them? Dad or mother? Mom or father? Parents have to be there to exist. If a tree doesn't get nurtured on Earth's surface, can it give us oxygen? Then don't give it tree's name. And don't think the streets change, because I'll probably cry rivers on one-way Mexico tickets while my kids will be in my living room dying. But I'll buckle back up my Orion and walk right back in that door to see my son smile. And his eyes will look so much different than mine, because he will see his father come back every time. So I'll be back like cornrows and lost souls that can't find their new home, because your new home looks so familiar. I'll be back like Mayors waxy buildup. They can't hear past the tax that milk us. So I'll be back like Tulsa in Oklahoma in May 31 or 1491 or September 10th. I'll be back like ghetto girls in maternity wards or unconscious kings in their street corner thrones. I'll be back like spinal cords or Duke Final Fours or dinosaurs fighting for America. Because America's just fighting for the rest of liquid pterodactyl. Now they're just saying terrorist instead of dactyl. Why? Because I have to be back. Even though I suffered this John Madden tackle, even though he left, I'll be back to make my little sister say, damn, that's the kind of man I needed. So when the chips are down, life made us bet we couldn't eat just one. So I'll be back for the fun. I'll be back for pun. I'll be back with no habits like a retired nun. And when the Messiah comes, I'll be back to beat drums and speak tongues only to talk to him alone. And I'll be back to Africa, because that's where it all started. Before the martyred, before the jobless and dragons and towers and hobgoblins, before Bambi's mom died. Just like my cousin Mark did. Before kids became marksmen. Before Congress and college forcing her to work topless, I'll be back to that place where your other sock lives, where a bad day is shocking. And somehow, some way, we all understand Dennis Rodman. Don't worry, I left scripture breadcrumbs on the tracks so you could find your way to the place and relax where foreign language is words like lack and can't and bad news. So you can burn your incense and light your candles, because every time you're back, I'll thank you. For my poets in distress like Danzus, you don't have to counteract. You don't have to copycat. You don't have to shut your trap or worry. Because I'll be back. I'll be back.
That's
I'll be
your
back.
name.
Yeah, because all the kids in the hood, that's basically all they heard. Mommy be back, daddy be back, So I feel like, that's the last thing Jesus said. You know what I mean? So to the point where that's all we hear all the time. My name's Albert Daniels. Please don't show that part. But you have to cut. No, I'm joking.
No, seriously, because I'm gonna cut it.
Oh yeah. No, it's cool. But my name's Al, so everybody calls me Al. So that's all. If huh? What happened? No, I'm from the Bronx. Yeah, so if that's all we heard and all everybody's heard, I want to take that phrase and make it, and that's what our people do. That's what we do. We took, what they gave us and made it into gold. We took their rags and made it into rope. So I feel like if that's all these kids heard, I want to be the next time they hear it is with something positive behind it.
Okay.
That's a great piece.
So let me ask you. You said before you got started, you said that you teach creative writing in the schools.
Yeah, well, yeah, everything that. See, one thing he's taught me was the cipher, and that's what this is, because we feel like a cipher is a circle, and everything, like we were talking about before, everything is generally going to come back. So when he gives me, I don't just hold that and keep it for myself. I want to depart it on. So that way
So are you working with? Are you working with a particular organization?
Yeah, organization, teachers and writers.
Oh, you work with teachers?
Yeah.
I work with teachers.
Yeah, so I originally started working with them, and then they give me some schools that can't normally be connected with them because of District 75 and yada yada yada, all of the particulars. So they have certain schools that just want poets, and so I go into there and teach those schools.
Okay. Gratifying work, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. When a kid finally, it could be, some kids could take minutes and some kids could take the whole 2 weeks that you're there, but when they finally get exactly what you been trying to relay to them and own it for themselves and personalize it, you know what I mean? Like if he gave me a T-shirt and I not only take the T-shirt, but I make the T-shirt fit to my best ability and be happy with it, there's nothing better than that. There's us poets, when we first read our poem, there's a reaction from a crowd, or there's a reaction that we have when we like our piece. And that first face that they give after the piece is over, there's absolutely nothing better than that.
So, how y'all like it? I told you it was going to be off the hook, right? The salmon is what's really off the hook, y'all.
My name is Kathy Wright Lewis, and the piece I'm going to read is entitled Renaissance, Babies for the Revolution. And it's a prelude to the last chapter of the book of Mariah's Seed, which I wrote a few years ago. And Mariah's Seed is about Brownsville and what happened in Brownsville. I grew up in Brownsville, and I remember when it was a beautiful, loving neighborhood, impoverished, economically sure, but we didn't know that because of the culture of love. I want to read Babies for the Revolution because it's a call out to everybody who needs to come and do the right thing in the neighborhood. Keisha, Mecca, Abdullah, and Kareem, Tariq and Tamika, Shawana, Hakeem. No more fried hair, no more shame, not giving my baby the name of a slave. It seems like only yesterday, heritage found was lost again. Keisha calls Mecca a hoe and a bitch. Tariq shot Kareem because he wants to be rich. Cornrows, braids, or locks don't mean a damn. Brother wearing a crown is probably up to a scam. It's nothing like it was yesterday. Heritage found is lost again. Can't find a new Malcolm. Martin's unknown. Gotta sell drugs if you want a throne. Silly little rappers want to be the Mac, while the little lost girls think it's fat and all that to wear tight minis and platform shoes, ride in fancy cars and not go to school. It's a rotten, dirty, low-down shame. Heritage found is lost again. Nigger has risen like Lazarus from the dead. We say it with love, is commonly said. Little brother has become the once dreaded man. He's more likely to lynch you than the skinheads or the Klan. Steal your car, mug you in broad daylight. Give a share to his mama, she makes it all right. The nightmare lives with us. The dream's a lost friend. Heritage found is lost again. Who's gonna take the weight? Let's see. Who wasn't killed? Who didn't flee? Who didn't become the enemy? Who cares about more than just me, me, me? If ancestors whose names that are bad could be heard, rest assured they'd give us the word. Maybe love we'll comprehend, so heritage lost could be found again.
All right.
Yes, back in the days, the last poets were first burning up the landscape of what was known as poetry. Our concentration was on niggers, and I had written a nigger poem that was considered one of the top poems in the group. It was called Run Nigger.
Hold on. We gonna be able to air this? Is this gonna be all right?
You know what the area,
No, if the poem is about nigga, are we gonna be able to do that?
No, I'm not doing that. I'm doing my people. I'm doing another poem.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you was okay. I'm sorry. I was like,
You need to work for like ABC.
I'm like, are we gonna be able to do that? I wasn't put off.
She got to do that though. No, she got to do that. That's his job. She got to do that. You got to do that. We just play.
Yeah, but I'm
go with
just
his
saying.
sister.
No.
You got to do that.
This is a setup to come to something. This is a setup.
I like that.
This is a setup to come to something.
Business.
Okay.
This is a nice.
But tone the nigga down though.
Next poem.
Say nizzle.
Anyway, so as I was saying,
Nizzle.
the only poems that the content or the featured pieces in the last was at that time was like nigga poetry. Niggas are untogether people, niggas are scared of revolution, and run nigga. And I had already, a brother had told me at one of our gatherings, he says, you really can't be a revolutionary unless you have a clear idea of the world you want to live in.
Wow.
And the people who you want to live with. So I'm saying that if we just write about niggas, I don't want to live in a world full of niggas. I can't, I can't watch my back. I mean, I have to watch my back too much. It's not going to be a safe world because niggas don't look out for each other. Niggas look out for themselves. So that was the understanding. So I said, let me write a poem dealing with the kind of people that I want to live in the world with. So I wrote a piece entitled My People. My people are black, beige, yellow, brown, and beautiful. A garden of life with a love as sweet as scooping all wine. Growing in muddy waters, making brown babies with pink feet and quick minds. My people warm, sometimes hot, always cool. Always together in church, in school, in jail, in the service, in the streets of the ghettos throughout this forsaken land. My people, let's be together. Understand that we've lived together. Understand that we've died together. Understand, my brother, I've smelled your piss in my hallway, and it smells just like mine. Understand that I love your woman, my sister, and her rare beauty is reason enough for a revolution. Yes, sister, my honest sister, I have had ugly moments with you, but you're the only beauty I've ever known. Yes, sister, my honest sister, you are the joy in my smile, the reality of my dreams. You are the only sister I have, and I need you. I need you to feed the children of our race. I need you to feed the love of our race. I need you to be the summer of my winters. I need you because you are the natural life in the living. At night there is a moon to make the blackness be felt. I am that blackness, filling up the world with my soul, and the world knows me. You are that moon, my moon goddess, peacefully smiling down light on my black face that fills the universe. My moon, I am your sun, and I shall take this piece of light and build a world for you, my sister. Sometimes the waters are rough, and the hungry tide swallows ashore, washing away all memories of children's footsteps playing in the sand. Where is the world I promised my son? Must he push back the tide and build the world I have talked about? Am I so godly until I forget what a man is? Am I so right until there is no room for patience? My brother, oh my brother, father of the sun, my brother, father of a warrior, my brother the sun, my brother the warrior. Be the beginning and the end for my sister. Be the revolution for our world. Turn yourself into yourself and then on to this disordered world and arrange the laughter for joy and the tears for sorrow. Turn purple pants, alligator shoes, leather jackets, brown boots, polka dot ties, silk suits. Turn miniskirts, false eyelashes, red wigs, afro wigs, Easter bonnets, bell bottoms. Turn this confusion into unity, so that the sun will follow our footsteps in the day, so that the moon will glow in our living rooms at night, so that food, clothing, and shelter will be free, because we are born free, to have the whole world as our playground. My people.
So where do you get your inspiration?
From the people.
From the people, just any people, every people, all the people.
I like people, and I get inspiration even from white people, but I particularly like my folks, and we just bring so much more flavor to the table, you know. And I mean, even us on crack is a show. You know, even us at our worst particular state of existence, there's something to gain. And sometimes if you listen, there's wisdom. They may not follow the wisdom, but they got wisdom. So, you know, I've learned from the people. I mean, I've checked out the fact that, you know, here we like to throw away supposedly, and a lot of us really do feel throwaway. But then there's something in us that says, no, I'm not a throwaway, no matter what there's an arrogance with that, you know. We're pitiful, but not that pitiful, you know. It's almost like a show. It's a show of pity, but it's not really, you know, because somehow we make it. So there's a strength, there's a colorfulness, there's a creativity. I mean, I'm a sports addict, and I just look at how we change sports just by participating. We just do anything we get involved in just changes, you know. Okay. So that kind of stuff is really inspirational to me.
Okay.
And I
So
love my sisters, so that's a given.
now, where have you been? Like, okay, Last Poets came out in what, 60?
We started in 68, and the
Okay.
album came off in 70, and in that period of time we had to all grow up, because I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I didn't know anything, you know. I was doing something that I didn't even know was important.
Okay.
You know, I was just doing something.
But you
know.
affected,
Yeah,
thousands
but,
of lives.
yeah, I didn't know that. All I knew that I was doing what I felt like I wanted to do, and I didn't want to work the
I
post
remember
office.
listening to listen to your albums when I was a
Yeah.
kid. I mean, I was a teenager too.
Yeah,
Same
so
time.
that was a very it's a deep period because we really thought there was going to be a revolution, that we were going to go ahead and settle this whole thing, you know.
Yeah, but you had such insight at such a young age. You know, I mean.
I was hanging out with older people.
Okay.
I was getting knowledge from them, and I also I was reading. And when you start doing stuff like that, you get a lot of information that does have merit, you know. So I can't take credit totally, because if you're hanging out with older people, especially, they're going to demand that you know something, because they're going to crack on you.
Right.
You know, I mean, there was an expression that I could not stand, and it was an expression that a lot of people that a lot of people probably still hear or heard back in the days. This is a simple expression: when you don't get yourself together. God, nobody wants to hear that. When you gonna get yourself together?
Yeah, like who's thinking about that?
Like
what you think I'm trying to
first
do?
of all, you think
I'm together now.
I'm together now. You know, I ain't together. I'm cool. You know, when you get yourself together, when you gonna really get yourself together, you know. And so when you have people, you know, hitting you like that, you know, you're gonna straighten up and fly right.
Right.
You know?
Okay, so now how did you maintain, like, from that point to this point? If you're talking about like from 68 and you're talking about here, this is 2005. I mean, have you been doing poetry all this time? Where are the Last Poets now?
Well, I've been doing poetry all this time because that's who I am. That's my vehicle. That's my escape route. That's my vent. That's the way in which I talk to God. That's the way in which I get to know who I am and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's how I flex my muscles. So I'll do poetry, and I've got thousands of poems that the world will never see. I've written poetry just for me. It's like my personal conversation. You know, it's just something that I say, this is what I'm feeling today, and sometimes I share, sometimes I don't. All right, but that's something that's constant in my life. I've been given this platform by the people because the Last Poets were actually, you know, ordained by the folks. This wasn't like a contest or Grammy Award or nothing. This is strictly the folks say, we dig you guys, so we're gonna buy you guys, even if you guys are not advertised. That's deep. That's a very, very big pump for me. I think about that all the time in terms of that legacy. Okay, I work, I teach, and I found that poetry is one of the languages where you can actually reach a child a little quicker than you can, because we're poetic people and we respond to poetry. So if I'm trying to teach you verbs, if I'm trying to teach you pronouns, whatever I'm trying to teach you, if I use a poetic example, I can reach you quicker, and I can make it even more fun for you to learn this. So so being a poet and a teacher, it seems to be almost synonymous to me, because like I like the idea of communicating. I like the idea. I like to see that light turn on in a kid's head. You know, I like to see them get it. You know, I like to see them get this information, because it's amazing. You'll see some of the children who have there's all kinds of predestinations of them going straight to hell, and they get a little light, man, and then all of a sudden things change. They start, everything changes, and you say, ooh, and you see this person even pick up the slack, because ultimately it's about you picking up the slack for yourself. But you know, but I enjoy that idea of being a facilitator. I like that. I enjoy that, and poetry has been a wonderful platform, because if I'm explaining something, with inevitably a poetic example is going to pop out my mouth, and I won't even know where it came from.
Exactly.
But that's just the poetry, and so that has given me leverage, because whereas another teacher who may have just as much information, he's not going to sound as juicy because he doesn't have poetry.
Right.
So he's going to try to say the same things, and maybe the kids will like him and so forth, but it's not going to sound hip and slick, because he didn't throw it in some poetic vibes. You know, and that's unfortunate. That's just his skill factor in that regard. But the fact is that it doesn't take away his fact that he can teach. It's just that I know that that's a particular plus for me.
Okay.
And it works for me.
So, okay, I hear you.
Yeah, but that's so and you said what's now the Last Poets now, the last 12 years we've been back together
all over the world. It's just insane. I just came from Vienna and Paris, where it was standing room only. It was ridiculous. And if you see, some of the pictures look like, if you just look at the pictures of the white folks, it looks like it's a rock concert, and maybe the Beatles are on stage. And this is year 2005. I'm gonna be very honest. I'm still amazed. I still don't understand it. I really don't, because I didn't write for these people. I can understand. I mean, and they have mad love for us. So I have a copy of the CD. And I was listening, and I was trying to figure out, I said, Umar and I are not even really talking slower. We're talking at the same speed we normally speak at. And the poetry is complicated enough if you can understand English.
Right.
So I'm listening, so I kind of closed my eyes and just kind of listened the other day, and I heard sounds. He's got a certain tenor in his voice. I've got a certain tenor baritone in my voice. Babatunde's voice is even deeper. We got 3 different textures of sound. Babatunde's playing the drums. I'm always doing something in the background, harmonic with him, and our harmony is tight because we've been singing together for a while. And if you don't understand what Umar is saying, it might be like Sarah Vaughan. It could be all like scatting, because he's intense about what he's saying.
Okay.
So you're getting like a wave, it's like an intensity chart. You're getting a wave of intensities, of various intensities. And I honestly believe that these people are getting off on sound, on human black sound, because and human black sound with some veracity of conviction. It's like so these guys, and of course if they pick up any of the words, it becomes of course chic, because that's a part of the deal.
Okay, all right. So, what are you guys doing as far? Do you have an album out now?
Yeah, we have
CD?
a new CD coming out. It's not out yet. It's leaking all over the daggone planet, but it's not supposed to be out. But it's a new CD.
When do you think it'll be out?
Well, we're hoping by the spring. We don't know. We know it's probably going to probably come out in Europe first, because we got this big audience in Europe, and so we got a connection. And we're thinking about trying to get it out there, because this way we can make some money now, as opposed to like waiting for all heaven and earth to come to meet, to get this thing done. I mean, it's like the music business is so polluted in America. I mean, you got a couple of plantations running everything. Universal is one of those plantations, okay? And a lot of times people are vying to be on the plantation. They want to be down. It's like, if Master could just subsidize my living expenses, I'd be so happy. and that's basically where they're coming from. And yet people know, lawyers know, that the way to go is independent. But independent means that you have got to be totally responsible for your stuff.
Right, exactly.
And you got to be, you got to be an adult, a total adult. You can't be a child. And nobody's giving you no candy to suck on. You got to no welfare and so forth. Because the welfare ultimately is going to cost you more than you can imagine, because you're going to build up credit that you're never going to be able to pay for.
Okay, if you could tell me in less than 50 words, maybe, which is about 1 minute. What are you guys talking about now?
We're talking about self-empowerment. We're talking about recognizing what we must do as people to change things. We're talking about realizing that we're in a world that is still giving us lopsided pictures of ourselves. We're still breaking down the false things that America presents. But the primary thing is that we're also trying to express that we have got to see change take place within us before we can talk about change taking place outside of us.
Oh, I hear you. Okay. I just want to thank you so much. That's right in time with where we are. I mean, in the world, in the whole scheme of things, with the whole, everything breaking down now. And it's like you really have to be disciplined to get where you want to go, because everything is breaking down.
That's
I just want to thank you for sharing your time with us today, opening your home to us. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed the salmon.
Good.
We like the potatoes
too. You think you got the recipe down? You think you got the recipe down?
I saw some carrots in there. I don't put carrots in mine.
But those are organic carrots.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
See, that's
you can't
it.
get none of them carrots in a little plastic pack. That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work.
Abiodun. Oh yeah.
Big carrots in the plastic. Yeah, they got
with
the big
organic carrots in the salmon croquettes.
That's right.
This is Renee McRae. Thanks for joining us today.